think it's a very important thing.
First of all, if somebody accepts your work, be grateful, be graceful, be polite. Don't get your head full of yourself and don't start making demands because you can back yourself out of work. Some years ago, I published work by a writer. I'm not going to name her. She wrote a story about a school teacher, and it started out looking like it was going to be it was called Mrs. Jordan's Summer Vacation. The writer's name actually was Kate Braverman. I won't name her. She had enjoyed some success in the 70s and vanished. And I didn't know who she was or anything about her, but she submitted a story to our magazine and it won a prize. And it was a magnificent story because Mrs. Jordan spends her summers looking for her lost daughter, who is a drug addict and a prostitute. That's not what you expect when you start reading about a 6th grade teacher. The story turned in its end into an indictment of the way society treats women who are outside of the law, especially prostitutes and drug addicts. And the last line of the story has stuck with me all these years. Someday we will bring our daughters home. A year or two later, she had published another novel, some collections of short stories. Her career was on the rise. She'd won an award, and I was at a conference in Baltimore, and she was to receive this award. And in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people, she came out on stage. She looked around and she said, "I refuse to accept this reward because the publisher," what was the word she used? "Butchered my novel." And she walked off, and you could hear this collective gasp. And she will never publish another word. She will never publish another story in America. No editor will touch her. In fact, even in my dealings with her, she was such a pain in the tush that I would never publish her again, and I gave her an award. Don't do that. What can you expect? You can expect criticism. You can expect feedback. You can expect to get your manuscript back and be told to line edit it. You can sometimes get lists of things that people have seen and be told to fix this. Once you fixed it, someone else is probably going to go through it too, and they're going to send you another proof, and you're going to have to go through again and go through their proof and make sure everything is right. Don't expect to get rich. My mentor and teacher is Robert Owen Butler. He won a Pulitzer Prize in 1993. Robert Redford hired him to write a screenplay and gave him $600,000. That's rare. Okay? My first novel, I got nothing. I got royalties the other day. I got my first check for royalties already, but I didn't get it in advance. My royalties, a grand total of $24. Anybody want fries and a hamburger? You know, you're not going to get rich. It's going to take time. You have to be patient. So don't expect, you know, maybe it'll happen. I mean, once in a while, a novel goes to an agent. The agent gets 3 or 4 publishers in a bidding war. You might get some money. But expect to go through 3, 4, 5 proofs. Expect a lot of conversations and emails and artwork. You have to pick, you know, what's going to be the cover. You're going to have to write acknowledgments. Be graceful. Be nice. Thank lots of people. Never argue. Don't give anybody a hard time because it's real hard to open that door and it's real easy to close it.
I have to agree 100%. I used my own experience using my first my urban fantasy novel published in 2011. It's called Room at the Door, under my pen name J. Damas. So when I first got the acceptance email, dancing around the room like that woman. But then again, the people started coming in. The sign forms, we have what we call the art form, where we have to help design the cover of the novel. Okay, so I send it off. So simple, I fill in the form only. Okay, be clear with what you want to see on the cover. Okay. also be gently assertive. But the thing again is up to the publisher and the designer. Then the proofs started coming in. The edits started coming in. Oh my God. I thought that my English is good. So when I saw my editor's comments, I was like, must endure. Okay, by the end of the day, after we have edited your first novel together with your editor, you should have grown a thicker skin. Before, the thing is, do not be rude, do not be harsh. Bear in mind your editor is also a real person, not a woman or a guy. They have their own lives. Sometimes they do have shitty days, bad days. So imagine if you see a particular paragraph butchered in red. Your first instinct is to go to scream at the editor, right? Don't. Look at the edited version of your paragraph. Go away from the computer for 1 or 2 hours and come back refreshed. And talk and email and thank your editor for what she has done or he has done. Because he has worked on your novel. And the thing is, I always see my editor as a fitness instructor. Okay? Your manuscript is very raw, but your editor is going to turn your manuscript into a living fighting machine. Okay? So by the end of the day, move at the door when it's completed and ready for publication. It looks way different from the raw version. Stronger, even tighter, and awesome. My editor has done a good job. But the thing is, your part as an author has to be, you have to be graceful, you have to be polite, and you have to be empathetic to your editor as well. In short, be a nice person. Okay, because the thing is, doors can open in publishing industry, but doors can slam close at your face just as quick. If you behave like an idiot, a total moron, and total like arrogant diva, the publishing industry is very small. Editors will know, and next thing you know, they will reject you.
Do you agree that the publishing house and editors have a lot of power, or like where's the line drawn? Like how much say does the writer have? Or like maybe just with massive progress, I guess. What's my experience?
Okay, like two of my writers here hasn't been. The book is not out, but it's out this year. Joyce that's beside me has still hold a front cover, and that's the first in the trilogy. I have one sitting right in front of me. Okay, say for Hong Kong, this manuscript has been with me for 12 months? 12 months? 8 months. And I am sort of talking with one of his university mates. I think in Yale. So we hope to publish her to. Then that she told me that she's in the 4th year at NUS in Hong Kong is fantastic. I said, wow, wait, I remember Hong Kong passed me manuscript and he wasn't in 4th year yet. He seemed to have just started at university or something like that. He said, wow, time flies, which means I've been staying it for a while. And it does happen when the manuscript comes in and on my part at least, because I always use that trump card excuse because of the bookstore, because the bookstore sucks away all my time. And I still have to run the publishing arm and I still do a lot of other things. We just seem to have all-encompassing power with all that advice that we give. I guess, to give an example, I have another friend, he is the editor for 1 or 2 online literary journals based in UK. He's studying there, he's back now at NIE. He works on a very fast pace because he does an online literary journal and he accepts poetry submissions. So maybe if you're submitting maybe 2 poems, so basically he switches on his computer, he switches on his email, and you just read the 2 poems, and then he decides to reply you. And that's what he did with most of his, that's that's how it works. He sees the poem instantly, he feels that it's not up to scratch. He replies the person instantly, which results in a rejection. And he had shared with me before where the person that he rejected instantly replied back and said that, I just sent you the poems like maybe 5 minutes ago and you rejected me like 3 minutes ago. Are you saying that you didn't even look at the poem? But obviously he had, and he felt it wasn't good enough. And but some editors do work that fast, and sometimes it's also like this do happen, you send 2 poems in 5 minutes and 3 minutes later you get rejected. You're going to start wondering, the editor doesn't look at my work, that does happen. A more closer experience for myself, I had 3, 4 days ago, someone submitted a set of writings for us to consider. And I worked with a few so-called gatekeepers that helped me vet through the manuscript, because there's no way I can read everything. And he's also one of those fellas that if you give him a 5,000 word sample manuscript, he can actually read through it over the next 2-3 hours, and then he will tell you in the next 4th, 5th hour that whether it's good to go or not. So he works that fast. And he has gotten back to me with the thing that was sent to me. And before I came here earlier in the day, I was in front of the email and I was thinking, should I send an email now to reject the person that sent me the manuscript? Because I am also afraid of being accused of not looking at manuscript closely, But I think us editors or us publishers sometimes have that, we are powerful in a sense, but I think we also have our limitations, we also have our fears at the same time, which means that we are just like you, human beings. So.
Thank you. We have about slightly less than 10 minutes left. Do you guys have any questions for any of the panelists? Anyone? How many of you are writers or aspiring writers? Could you raise your hands? Don't be shy. You can't be shy if you want to become a writer next time. Do any of you have any questions? Or I think you have to come forward. Or if you can
Well, my question was, I guess, for all 3 panelists. All 3 of you mentioned that. All 3 of you mentioned that you have to write what you love, what come from within, and all this kind of stuff. But what happens when that art that you're creating runs up against the commercial interests of publishing, and no editor, no publisher wants to publish your art? At what point does the writer then have to decide, I need to write something that's commercial so that it can sell?
William Blake is one of the most famous artists. In his entire life, he never saw a picture. His work was discovered, 50, 60 years after he was dead. People started looking at it. And I feel your pain. If you want to write for money, go into advertising. Go into comic books or go into something like that. It can be done. People do it all the time. But if your heart is really in it, you're going to get sick of telling people, eating Beepos will make you smarter. It just doesn't work, When do you give up? My feeling is you never give up. I don't know of anyone who got anything worth having in life who didn't have to work for it. You're going to have to face that own, moment of despair. Why am I doing this? And I'll tell you something, if you're a real writer, you're going to find yourself sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, alone, broke. You're about to turn off the lights. You've got nothing to eat in the refrigerator. Your latest love just walked out on you because you're obsessed with something. And you're asking yourself, why do I do this? The answer is because you can't stop. You can't envision living any other way. I don't know if I'll ever be successful, but I know this. Most of the successful people I know don't have anything that I want. there's a question like that for you.
Joy? This is a good question. You know, I have a lot of things to say, but even for my kind of urban fantasy, I was rejected. Not once, not twice. The thing is, I persisted. I say, why not? It's not the end of the world. The world's not going to go crashing on me. Almost did. Learn like, oh my god, I can sell Asian werewolves, Chinese werewolves. My god. But I did. The thing is, but a lot of my short stories were rejected all the time. And then if you look at the email, like the rejection email, like probation to mothball that short story, put it back in the hard drive and move on. Okay, the writing life is not going to be cushy. You're not going to earn big bucks unless you're the next J.K. Rowling or Stephanie Myers. Okay? The thing is, you are going to constantly work at your craft, despair, cry, become depressed, crawl back out from that dark hole, and write again. That's all I can say about writing.
Question now. How should I address this question? Let me see. If you take for example James Joyce, Ulysses. Almost everybody would be familiar with Ulysses by James Joyce. I tried reading 4 times, I failed 4 times. I'm not going to be sure if I'll try the 5th time. Maybe unless I'm confined in a hospital bed, then I'll try for the 5th time. But I know I failed 4 times. And you know, as a reader, I failed 4 times, you know, and I didn't even get to half, a quarter maximum, to the part where he was taking a dump in the toilet. I think that was about it. And of course, novel is classic. Huge chance novel is classic now. Masterpiece, you know, if you name a top 100 piece of work, Ulysses is up there. Even top 50. He got rejected multiple times. You know, I have no idea what was going in his mind when he was really. He was on the street of consciousness, so maybe nothing much was going on. He was just writing, right? But of course, after rejected so many times, and finally it was Sylvia Beach over at Chicago that picked it up way back then, I think. That got him published. It got published, you know, and that's it. You know, he was writing something that he thought was the greatest, I guess. I hope he thought that, because a lot of people think it is now. I do think it is. You know, there are parts of it that I love, and there are parts of it I know that I could copy out and put on Tumblr and I'll get a lot of shares after that. But that is that just of writing, you've got to really write what you believe in, you know, and what you really like to write. And don't be shy about those sense of why authors and things. You know that whatever you're writing is the truth. It's what you want to see most in print, you know, whether it's an e-book or print book. That's the thing that you want to see come to existence, then write it. You know, and hopefully there'll be one publisher that takes the same leap of faith with you. You know, and I'm sure there will be a publisher out there, or even it means setting up your own publishing house. But that might become vanity publishing. But then again, it has become the next Ulysses of our generation. Why not?
We're out of time, so thank you Joyce, Kenny and Dr. for taking the time out of your busy schedule to participate in this panel. And a huge thank you to the sponsors, the National Youth Council and Polo Bookstore. And last but not least, thank you to everyone who attended this panel. And we hope you learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing books out from you in the future. And if you're interested,